He said stuff without a scare.
This defense sucks. You are a professional team. Act like one, for God's sakes.
One of the greats. Buffone was a bear. He was a Chicago Bear. Now at the barroom for year 9, knowing winning is the bottom line. John Buffone continues the legacy. He's got Doug's pedigree.
If you look at this team and this quarterback and this coach, if it's not going to be now, when?
And John does it with 2 pros, Alyssa Barbieri and Danny Shimon. Buffone, 55 years old Bear, covering all the team's affairs. Buffone, 55 years old Bear, covering all the team's affairs.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Buffone 55. I am your host, John Buffone, and I'm here to help you celebrate the Bears' 4-game winning streak, the first since 2018. And I also want to banish the thought in anyone's mind that that was an ugly win. Are you kidding me? You think the defense holding the opposition to 44 rushing yards is unattractive? What's ugly about 4 takeaways on defense? I find nothing unattractive about the Bears gaining 222 yards rushing against a team that was allowing an average of only 116. Now, to be fair, Caleb Williams in the passing game was not much to look at, but if we listen to Ben Johnson, we should have expected that Caleb was going to have some not-so-pretty games in their first season together. Bottom line is, I'm saying to you that beauty is in the eye of the final score. So let's talk about the Bears' 26-14 home victory over the Saints with my friends and co-hosts. We'll start with Danny Shimon, lead game analyst here at the Bar Room and the owner-operator of Shimon Draft Scout on YouTube, and my longtime partner and co-host Alyssa Barbieri from USA Today's NFL Wires, including Bears Wire. Guys, I've gotten to do it one time. In 9 years doing this show, I've got to celebrate a 4-game winning streak once. I don't think you guys have not got to celebrate it on this show at all. So let's go around the horn with instant reactions. Danny, how you feeling after the 4-game winning streak and that win over the Saints?
No, it feels great, right? Hey, a win is a win. The NFL is tough to win, right? So if you'll take a win any way you can get it. And with Ben Johnson, the Bears right now, you can see that they're building, they're getting confidence, and they're just finding ways to win here, right? And I think the ugly part comes, John. I think you talked about it, Caleb. Ben Johnson always talked about, right, in terms of this offense, 2 steps forward or 1 step back. Well, if you look at it that way, I think this game might have been a step back, a little step back for Caleb overall. I'm not concerned at all, but the penalties, I think, would really kind of muddy up the whole offensive flow there as well. 10 penalties, well, offense and defense, I should say. 10 penalties for 92 yards. That's still way too much, and I know that they're going to work at it. But no, I do not say, oh, it was an ugly win. A win is a win. They're 4-2, right? There are teams, couple in New York, that would love to have some of these victories that the Bears are getting. So these victories, they build the culture. They help Ben Johnson and his coaching staff kind of continue to coach these guys up. I've said it multiple times before. You're winning as opposed to when you're losing.
Yeah, so I think Alyssa, I'm going to go to you real quick. Danny might have some audio issues there. Alyssa, I've been saying progress is not linear, and that means for the football team and for the quarterback. But they do win a game that I think maybe last year I'm not saying they would have lost this game, but they're winning games that they may have lost last year. How are you feeling about that 4-game winning streak?
Yeah, you don't get style points for wins, so I'm just feeling good that I get to finally come on the show and celebrate a 4-game winning streak because I've been here since 2019 and we've never gotten to do this. There's a lot of firsts that we've been doing on the show lately, it seems. But, kind of with Ben Johnson taking over, I feel like going into the season, and we're still really early on, right? We're 6 games in. I'm still are things really going to be different? Because, we've been conditioned just to believe that the Bears are going to blow a game, that they're going to find ways to lose. Recent history shows us that. So every time I'm like, are they really going to do it this time? And they continue to prove us wrong. And I think that in a good way for once. So I'm just really excited to see that this Bears team can go out and win games, whether they need the offense to show up like they did earlier in the season or the defense or special teams. And yeah, I'm not going to get picky. There are some things that need to be cleaned up on both sides, but here we are. The team is making progress. They beat a 1-win Saints team, and I think they have a somewhat favorable matchup coming up this week and beyond, and we'll see if they can keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, and I said last week, if they pull off that great win against the Commanders in prime time and then lay an egg against the Saints, you just take all of the momentum that you built up the week before and you just deflate it. It's all gone. And so you can't lose to the Saints. And they didn't. Now, a big talking point, nationally, regionally, what have you, is that, well, because would you rather lose and Caleb look great, or would you rather win and he has a subpar performance? And for me, I was like, I just want to win games, and I know that the young quarterback is going to have issues. And so looks like we might have Danny back with us now, although internet might be lagging here, but I'm going to ask you a question anyway, Danny. Even though Caleb maybe didn't look great, are you concerned about the quality of the win or how they won, or is it just, team win? Ben Johnson's getting this team to pull together and win.
So I don't know how much you guys got of the last clip before I got cut off, but I was some of the best analysis I had throughout the entire season so far. So I hope you guys got all of that. But I'm just saying, in terms of Caleb, listen, there's going to be games like this. This is a young quarterback that's learning a new system, learning off. And I keep saying this every week in, week out, it seems like. But you're going to have those good games, you're going to have those bad games, and I'm just, that's what I was trying to say earlier. Again, I'm not sure when you guys lost me last time, but. It's great for Ben Johnson and his staff to take games like this where you win, right, and teach and teach. Use that tape to teach these players. Hey, look at the mistakes you made here. Imagine if you didn't make these kind of mistakes over here. And then because players now they feel the glories of victory. They've got that taste, if you will, to use the Jameis Winston term. They're eating W's now, right? So they like that feeling. They like those post game clips that they see on social media that are going viral, and all the Bears fans are promoting them and retweeting them and whatnot. So this is stuff that's it's building here, and then just to know that you're still not there. You're still not playing a clean football game as a football team overall, right? So once you continue to drill this now into these players, if you're Ben Johnson and their staff, listen, guys, we're winning. Imagine how much better we'd be if we can clean up these mistakes, like the penalties, like some of the inconsistencies on offense in terms of not playing on time, whether it's the quarterback or the receivers or the line not finishing some of their blocks. So I think this is an opportunity for Ben Johnson to continue to kind of mold this team into his vision. And we're seeing it, in terms of the running game, this was a non-existing running game prior to the bye week. They went into the lab as a coaching staff, and they fixed it so far. And if you win by running the ball and taking the ball away as a defense and being opportunistic, and your offense, your quarterback or receivers, make big plays here and there when needed, but you keep piling up those wins, by the time the season's over, that offense is going to be clicking on full cylinders, and that's when the Bears are going to be dangerous.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that running game here in a little bit, but everyone's talking about the offense and the emphasis on the offense and Caleb Williams, but I do want to talk about the defense a little bit. Danny, how good can this defense be with the takeaways? I mean, you can't keep just saying they're coincidental. They're being opportunistic. They're getting those takeaways. And then I want you to talk about the secondary a little bit with the safety duo of Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon coming back. It just seems like this unit's starting to click.
Yeah, they're getting healthy, right? You got TJ Edwards back. You got Kyler Gordon back here, and Dennis Allen to me is doing a masterful job. I truly feel like, guys, the players he's got, it's not what it's not ideal for him, right? But he's making the best of it. He's taking what he has and he's trying to do what he can to in terms of run defense, improving that, and then also in terms of the pass rush. And this past week, or last couple of weeks now, he's got Kyler Gordon back, and then he got TJ Edwards back well. But what we saw here in this week, he's using the secondary, Brisker and Gordon to provide some of that pressure. And although if you have that tape, I want to show a couple of examples here where Kyler Gordon now is being used as a chess piece on defense. He's lining up. Here you see him line up outside on a receiver. That player goes in motion, and guess what? Kyler Gordon steps inside, and he comes in as a blitzer. And it looks like he catches Alvin Kamara by surprise. And Kamara's like, where's this guy coming out of? And first of all, that's a really futile pass blocking attempt there by Alvin Kamara, a veteran. But Gordon's ability to, his ability to close in quickly with that burst, that speed, his athletic ability, and just comes in, and Rattler has no idea that Gordon's coming. So I think that's where Gordon can add a little bit of an edge to the pass rush here, because he's so versatile, because he can line up on the outside on bigger receivers, because he can kick inside on slot receivers. Now you can bring him off that slot as a slot blitzer as well. And the other thing is, I love the way he's been utilizing Jaquan Brisker so far. We talked about in previous weeks, Brisker, we've seen him more and more closer to the line of scrimmage. Here, he's straight up in a 2-point stance. Looks like he's going to fire off the ball at the snap, and he comes. And again, really bad, pass blocking attempt there by Alvin Kamara. This is not a tape that Alvin Kamara is going to want to sit there and watch with his teammates. But he blows right through Kamara and gets to Spencer Rattler, and again, gets the sack here. So, utilizing the athletes you have, not only at the line of scrimmage, but also in the second level with some of the linebackers. I know we're going to touch on Tremaine Edmonds a little bit later on in the show, but using his athletic ability, and then using the guys in the secondary, guys like Brisker, guys like, Kyler Gordon. I love the way Dennis Allen's doing this. And yes, you can't rely on turnovers, but you know what? This team, this coaching staff is preaching turnovers. Al Harris, the great DB coach, one of the best hires Ben Johnson made. I love that hire. As soon as I heard he was coming to the staff, he preaches 4 turnovers a game. 4 turnovers a game. They're gonna go ahead and get 4 turnovers. And sort of these guys go out there and they look for the ball. They try to emphasize getting the ball out and making turnovers. And what we've seen the last couple of weeks is Montez Sweat coming back. Montez Sweat being more of a force up front at the line of scrimmage. So, again, winning just builds this kind of culture. When you see a guy next to you making plays, if you're Montez Sweat, and you're like, damn, I got to step up my game. And now he's going up there making plays. So this is what winning does. And that's why, a win is a win. I will never say, oh, that was an ugly win. It doesn't count. No, you win. Every week you go out there to play to win the game. I think I'm quoting Herm Edwards here. You play to win the game. I think this is where the Bears and Ben Johnson are doing a great job here building that culture.
And there you go. We talked about the secondary. Alyssa, I want to talk about the front seven a little bit here, because he brought up Tremaine Edmonds. This is a guy that we were talking about, oh man, not living up to the contract. They shouldn't have given him that big contract. And now he's rising to the occasion. Against the Saints, he has 9 total tackles. He has a sack, and he also has an interception. He has 3 interceptions on the year. Can you talk a little bit about the linebacking core, specifically Tremaine Edmonds, and then the defensive line? Austin Booker's going to come back eventually. Grady Jarrett's going to come back eventually, but the defensive line is holding their own at this point.
Yeah, and to your point, starting with Tremaine Edmonds, I mean, this is the best that he's looked since he signed with the Bears 3 years ago. And I think that Dennis Allen is really getting the best out of him. Moving to Will has really helped him. Getting TJ Edwards back, TJ Edwards had the assist on that interception that he had against the Saints, and he's leading the team right now in tackles. He has the second most interceptions, only to Kevin Byard, who is just on a roll right now. And to your point too about the defensive line, I think the biggest thing to come out of this game was the run defense, right? Even on offense, which I know we'll get to, Ben Johnson and that coaching staff challenged the offense and that run game to step up. And now we see that on defense as well, that run defense, which was the second worst in the league heading into this game. They were giving up over 150 rushing yards per game. They allowed just 44, which is a season low. And Alvin Kamara only had 28 yards and 2.5 yards per carry. And like you said with Austin Booker, just the pass rush, because I think this was the best game that we've seen from the pass rush this season. And even just not from a sack standpoint, Spencer Rattler was, quote, rattled for most of the game out there. And I think that getting someone like Austin Booker back would be huge for this, because, you know, Dio hasn't really done a lot, but Montez is really coming into his own at this point. And, you know, this is the final week of Austin Booker's 21-day window to be activated off of IR. So I do anticipate them activating him to the active roster this week. So hopefully that means he'll be playing, suiting up on Sunday against the Ravens, because if I know we're going to get to the Ravens, but if Lamar is playing, I think they're going to need Austin Booker there.
And Danny, real quick before we go into the run game, we're going to talk about the offense and the offensive line, but just put a button on this for us as far as the play from the linebacking core, Tremaine Edmonds, and, you know, reinforcements are coming for the defensive line.
Yeah, and then Alyssa hit on it perfectly there. You know, with the shift there, moving T.J. Edwards when he came back to middle linebacker, I think that's really allowed Trey Edmonds to kick outside and be that will and be more free. And you know, I've been one of his biggest critics, and I will say, I even tweeted out on Sunday, this is the best that I've seen Tremaine Edmonds play since his early days in Buffalo. I think DA has been a godsend for Tremaine Edmonds' career. I think he's rejuvenated him, and you see him used in different ways. You know, the Eberflus regime wanted him to drop back in coverage and use his size and length to be a deterrent in pass coverage. But DA is saying, all right, yeah, you can do that. But he's got him blitzing. He's got those two, the linebackers, running twist stunts up front. He's got him coming down aggressively in terms of run defense, and also in his ability to go out and get some pressure on the quarterback and make some sacks as well. So again, Tremaine Edmonds, I think, has been revitalized and rejuvenated here in terms of his Bears career under Dennis Allen. And I give a big tip of the cap there for DA for getting that best out of his linebacking core.
Who would have thought that coaching matters? And it's showing it. It's showing that in every aspect this year. Let's change sides of the ball. Let's talk about the running game, because I think that was a big talking point this week. It was a big talking point going into the game, and they proved it again. DeAndre Swift had a huge game. He had 124 yards on the ground. He also had a touchdown. Kyle Monangai putting 13 carries in for 81 yards and a touchdown. Alyssa, what are your thoughts on this running game? Because obviously Ben Johnson wants to run the ball, and he's getting two guys that are starting to be a little bit of a two-headed monster, kind of like what he had in Detroit. I'm not saying they're Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, but at least it's a version of that.
Yeah, it's crazy because I remember, coming on the show, we were talking about the run game, for those first 4 games, just how it did absolutely nothing. And it's like, how are they going to get the run game going? And now it's looked like they've been doing this all season long, just the way the run game has come alive. In the last 2 games, they've totaled 367 rushing yards, which is 183.5 yards per game. When you look at the first 4 games, they totaled 409, roughly 102 yards per game. But, there's some rough outings there. And just, we talked a lot of smack about DeAndre Swift, and I feel like I got to apologize to him. Just seeing him kind of come to life in these last 2 weeks, coming into that Commanders game, he had one 100-yard rushing game with the Bears. The last 2 weeks, he's doubled that. He has back-to-back 100-yard outings. He's become a security blanket also for Caleb in the passing game, as we saw against Washington with that 50-plus yard touchdown. And looking at what he's done so far, he's one of the best in the league right now in the last 2 weeks, totaling 313 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and averaging 7 yards per carry, which is crazy. And thinking back to when Ben Johnson was talking about getting the run game going, and that was a priority heading into the bye week, he was like, DeAndre Swift isn't the problem. And I think that we've seen that here. And also just Kyle Monangai, you touched on it, John. I mean, I was really pleasantly surprised. We finally got a glimpse at what he can do, because when they weren't having success in the run game, they weren't running it as much in those first 4 games. And, he really has solidified himself as that nice complement to DeAndre Swift. And DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai are the first Bears running back duo to average at least 6 yards per carry in a game last week against the Saints, since Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen in 2017. So pretty impressive stuff.
Absolutely. Those are 2 names from the past that you like to talk about every once in a while. Danny, listen, the Bears, people were talking how they didn't get a running back in the first couple of rounds. They weren't overly active in free agency, bringing guys in. They were worried about DeAndre Swift being the lead back. But talk about Kyle Monangai and how he's stepping up and playing beyond his 7th round draft status right now. He's a hard runner. How does he complement DeAndre Swift in this running game?
Yeah, I think he does a great job of complimenting him because DeAndre Swift, we've seen him. He's better on the outside. He's a guy that if you run these outside zone runs, I think that's tailor made for DeAndre Swift's game, right? But Kamalanga, he's more of that downhill in between the tackles type of runner. I saw it all his career scouting him at Rutgers. He's a compact, great, pretty good vision in terms of in between the tackles there. Great contact power and balance. He bounces off of defenders. And the one thing I love about this kid is that he has not had a fumble at his 4 years in Rutgers. Hasn't had a fumble here with the Bears. Knock on wood here. I don't want to jinx him or anything like that. But he's come along in terms of his pass catching ability as well. He's pretty reliable in terms of being able to catch passes out of the backfield. And initially in the first couple of weeks he got run over and pass and pass protection, but this past couple of weeks we've seen him be a little better there in terms of be a little bit more stout there at pass pro as well. So this is a kid that puts his head down and just continues to grind. And again, just a nice compliment to DeAndre Swift in terms of his outside, more of a speed shifty kind of game where for me Monanga is in between tackles, downhill, pounding, lowering his shoulder pad level, bouncing off the defenders and getting those 5, 6, 7, 8 yards.
And helping pave the way would be that offensive line that was moving people out of the way. We talked about this last week, Alyssa. Did they find the right formula at the offensive line right now? They have Theo at left tackle, and did they find the right? Are they where they need to be right now? What's your analysis of this offensive line? I believe we actually might have some video to go with this as well.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm gonna say yes and put an asterisk next to it, just because this wasn't Theo Benedict's best game. He had a really solid outing at his first start at left tackle against the Commanders, and in this game against the Saints, it was some hiccups. He's still a really, really good run blocker, and we saw that in this game, and he helped lead to those 222 rushing yards that the Bears had, but Ben Johnson also had something to say about Theo Benedict's performance in Week 7.
It's inconsistent, to say the least.
False start. Offense number 79. That's a 5-yard penalty.
He had a couple false starts mixed in there. Run game wise, he did some good things in terms of moving guys, but probably wasn't as clean as it could be. And then in pass pro, I think Chase Young got after him just a little bit more than he'd like as well. No, I think he's going to continue to get better with the more reps that he gets. And, that wasn't a slouch that he was going against yesterday on most of those snaps. And I think he's going to continue to get better.
Yeah, so go ahead, finish up.
Oh, yeah, no, I was going to say, too, when you look at what the Bears are able to do against the Saints, too, and so far this season, I was doing some research because I always look at the numbers and stuff, and the thing that stood out to me the most is that they've allowed just 11 sacks this year. That's the best in the NFL, which is crazy considering how far that we've come since last year when we were talking every week about Caleb getting, sacked how many times and hoping that he just comes out of this game alive. So the offensive line did a really good job, especially with the run game, getting over 200 rushing yards. So, but, Theo Benedict, I think he could be the answer at left tackle. I want a larger sample size still, but I think he might be it.
So, Danny, when we're assessing this offensive line, we know there's still might be some questions there. They're moving things in and out. They still might address that in the draft next year, but we're not going to really worry about that right now. When you're looking at this offensive line, what are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? I believe you have some film to talk about with them.
Or for me, it's in the last couple of weeks is they're moving guys at the line of scrimmage, right? They're getting more physical. They're off physicaling in terms of with physicality that defensive line from the opposing team, and whether it's last week versus Washington or even this past week versus the Saints. And for me, it corresponds with obviously the bye and what Ben Johnson and company went in and kind of thought that they do best there, and also with Theo being put into that left tackle. Now, Ben Johnson touched on that tape there. Theo had some mistakes. His second game wasn't as clean or as good as his first game was in Washington. But the one thing what the kid gives you is he gives you everything he's got. In those pass pros, yeah, he got walloped and pushed back by that defensive end there. But this kid doesn't give up, and it's that grit, it's that determination to go out and do whatever he can to get in front of that defensive lineman and give Caleb some time to get rid of the football. So he's got to learn there. He's not a technician there yet in pass pro, but for me, where he excels is in run blocking. And to me, he's a pretty good run blocker. This is that first touchdown here by DeAndre Swift. Look at that down block there. He moves that defensive line of the Saints, giving Swift that cutback ability to get back. Look at that big patch of grass there. Swift does a great job planting his foot and then, cutting up back against the grain there and getting downhill and getting that first touchdown. So that's Theo now at left tackle, again, down blocking and moving people off the line of scrimmage. They're doing a better job, in my opinion, now of getting to that second level defender, right? We have a couple of clips here moving forward here with, I believe, Drew Dahlman, and also we'll highlight Theo and the other tackle there here as well. So again, inside zone, outside zone, power. I love when he runs more. Johnson does like the outside zone because it gives Swift some opportunity to get on the outside. But again, here, look at Dahlman getting to that second level, chips there, releases to that second level backer. And again, look at Theo taking care of that defensive back there, bullying him out of the way there, clearing that lane and giving Swift that nice clear pathway to get to, that big run there. So again, here we're going to see, Dahlman, again, executing that chip block, gets that next level defender. Here, I think Theo could have been better here in terms of, reaching that second level defender and then maintaining that block. But this is where Ben Johnson says, there are some inconsistencies in his play. Does a good job here. And then if he can just get to Demario Davis there, number 56, and attach himself onto it, that would give the running back a little bit more space there to get more yards. So they're getting better at the point of attack now, and now some of them are getting to a next level defender, but now it's just executing, play in and play out, being clean with your hands, being clean with your angles. I think just more repetition, more time on task. I think this offensive line is going to continue to kind of build there around the running attack, and then again, pass blocking. For me, I think that's something that both tackles can get better at there. But now we have some more tape here now, kind of flipping to the opposite side and showing what Darnell Wright can do here as well. Again, I love when they do power blocking. And here you see Darnell Wright, who's a hell of an athlete, get out and watch him pull here and trap that backside defender. All right. And then giving the running back an ability to get in upfield there for 3 or 4 yards. Right now, again, this is where Theo could have done a better job here. Again, chipping and then turning and getting on to 56, Demario Davis, sealing him off. That would have given Swift a little more room there to probably get creative, more wiggle room to get downhill. But it's just getting those tackles out, creating that surge at the line of scrimmage, pulling them, using their athletic ability. In that case, we just saw Darnell right there, and creating that surge at the line of scrimmage to be able to create movement. And now your running backs, whether it's Swift or Monangai, are getting in between those runners or those tackles and getting up downhill and making positive chunks.
Yeah, so as we were talking about, Danny, this is going to be a work in progress with this offensive line. I believe you have one more clip here.
Yeah, this is another one here. I always talk about when I scout players, I talk about the offensive line, flipping his hips into the gap. And this is a perfect example here of Darnell Wright reaching that interior defensive lineman, flipping his hips into the gap, sealing off that defender. And look at that crease. Look at that lane he creates for Monangai there, allowing him to get past there. That's for a 5, 6, 7, 8 yard gain here. So again, now Jonah Jackson, this is again, if you get to your second level linebacker, when he reaches 56, if he can just finish that block off instead of losing his balance and losing his block, that's another 10, 15 yards possibly there for Colin Monangai. This is what Ben Johnson's talking about, is that they're getting better at the point of attack. It's now just maintaining and getting better in terms of executing and some of these second level blocks. If they can just get to these and finish them off, we're going to see bigger chunks and more productivity out of the running attack.
Yeah, and we knew that this was going to be a time where they had to gel. We didn't know if they were going to just come out of the gate, completely, congealed week one. They're going to be firing all cylinders, but it looks like they're starting to turn the corner. It looks like they have the right formula there. I want to go and talk about Ben Johnson's play calling a little bit because obviously it's great to watch the Bears being able to run the football. Alyssa, and this is a question that some people were asking throughout the week. Should Ben have established the run game early, or should that be what they try to do in every game? Just start to pound the football first and try to open some things up for Caleb.
I mean, I think that it starts with the run game, and that's going to obviously make things easier on Caleb. And this is his first season in this offense. He's still in his second year. So a solid run game is a quarterback's best friend. And, Ben Johnson talked about earlier this week about how the game plan is going to change every week depending on who they're playing. So sometimes they're going to run the ball more, sometimes they're going to pass it more. But I do think that they need to lean on the run game early, establish that early, get Caleb in a nice rhythm in the passing game, and hopefully that leads to more consistency on offense.
And now, Danny, one thing that can throw that flow off is penalties. So how much do you think penalties have affected Ben Johnson's play calling ability and what he would like to do offensively?
Yeah, I mean, these are the drive killers. I mean, the false starts, the holding penalties, that stuff's got to go. And I know Ben Johnson's been harping on it week in and week out. The Washington game was pretty good. I mean, they had no false starts, and then lo and behold, this game they have 3 or 4 false starts already. So that's something that they have to clean up. And again, you cannot fall behind in terms of the chains here. You got to keep moving forward. So that's something that I know Ben Johnson's harped on. I know his staff has harped on. It's just now the players going out there and executing and making sure they do not get those pre-snap penalties, and also the holding calls. The holding calls are also back breakers, because you get a big play and next thing you know you're moving back 10 yards because of a hold. So I think that's something that the coaching staff knows is a problem, and they are always preaching to these players, but they got to clean it up.
Yeah, and it wouldn't hurt if Drew Dalman didn't have Stickum on his hands and actually let go of the football whenever he's trying to snap it. That would be nice too. That probably should have been another penalty, which actually bailed the Bears out, I guess. But whatever, he's turned around, he still has the ball. Like, oh yeah, you wanted that. So whatever. I guess that we'll work on the center, giving the ball to the quarterback. Listen, Ben Johnson blamed himself for bad play calling right before the end of the first half that led to the Saints getting a rebuttal drive and scoring their first touchdown. I believe we have a clip of Ben talking about that.
I didn't think I did a good job calling plays in that sequence. I'm very, very aware of not wanting to give the ball back to the opponent with enough time for a rebuttal drive. I don't think I did the defense any favors with those play calls, and they had a better coverage than some of those pass plays a couple of times as well. So I can do a better job with those play calls. And then, the message for our offense has always been, it doesn't matter if it's that 2-minute situation or we're just in a normal game mode, is once we get the first down, we're normally in a pretty good spot. But that was one right there. I feel like if we would have just found a way to get that first down, we would have had a little momentum to get that thing going and get some points.
So that's, Ben Johnson taking accountability there. I want to go to a couple of chat room questions here. I'm going to compound 2 of them here from Cliff and then Squeegee. Is this going to be the Loveland breakout game? And then the second one from Squeegee was, will Burden start getting the ball more? He has better separation in Yak than all the other receivers. So these are obviously 2 rookies that people are excited about, and you see what Tyler Warren's doing in Indianapolis, and you're like, why isn't our tight end being involved like that? So, Alyssa, is there going to be opportunity for Will Burden? Is there Luther Burden or Colson Loveland in this game?
I really hope so. I mean, the problem is that there's so many mouths to feed on this offense. And, you look at Luther Burden, I mean, he's still the 4th receiver behind OZ. So I would like to see him get the ball more, because when he's out there, he is making plays. He's getting separation. He's wide open. I would like to see him used more downfield as well. For Colston, I think we saw a glimpse of what he can do both as a blocker and as a pass catcher in that game against the Saints. That sideline catch that he made, the toe tap, it was beautiful. I would love to see him get some more targets here. But again, the passing game, was struggling a little bit, and this was more of a running game for them. So I do think that against this, I know we're going to get into the Ravens preview here in a little bit, but I do think that this game does provide opportunities for both of them to see perhaps extended roles.
What do you think, Danny? Is there going to be an extended role for either one of these rookies, or what is it going to take for them to get a little more action? Because there are a lot of mouths to feed on this offense, and if it starts, clicking, then there should be more opportunities.
Yeah, Ben Johnson, he wants the tight ends to get involved. right? So he went into the bye looking to fix the running game. Looks like he's fixed the running game. Obviously, Cole Kmet, and left this game against the Saints and never came back, in terms of an injury. So we don't know his status yet. How much will he play versus the Ravens? Will he play at all? So I think in terms of, is this Colson Loveland's big opportunity to step up? Yeah. And I think that's secondary and those linebackers, I think, he could take advantage of them, of the Ravens. I think Colson Loveland could take advantage of them. So, this could be a game where you see Ben Johnson kind of emphasize Loveland and try to get the ball to him and maybe force feed him. And in terms of Burton, he is an exciting player. Anytime the ball is in his hands, he's got a chance to break a couple of tackles and run 20, 30, 40 yards. So I think, getting him more and more incorporated into the offense should be something that Ben Johnson and the rest of the staff makes an emphasis moving forward.
And so let's talk about the keystone to that and what's going to make that work, and that's going to be Caleb Williams. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good would be he's taking ownership of his miscues. It seems like he understands what he's doing wrong and what needs to be adjusted. I always say a little self-awareness goes a long way. Bad is there's still some accuracy issues that we're seeing. And then the ugly, and I'm not going to put this on Caleb Williams, is the issues with the handling the ball out of the snap or fumbling a snap. I'm not going to put that all on the quarterback because we saw some miscommunication or just an inability to let go of the ball from the center. But Alyssa, what are your thoughts on Caleb Williams as far as the good things, the bad things, and things that we're a work in progress?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree this is probably his worst game under Ben Johnson, and they still managed to win. So when that's happening, that's really good. And I think that speaks volumes about having a complementary football team. But he does need to clean up, especially the accuracy issues he was having in this game. Not something I'm overly concerned about because we've seen earlier this season, especially that Dallas game, we know how great he can be, how high that ceiling is. And I think that will come with time. This is Caleb's first year with Ben. And when you look at the comparison between Caleb's first 6 games with Ben Johnson and Jared Goff's first 6 games with Ben Johnson, it's very similar. And it ended up well for Goff in Detroit. In the first 6 games with Ben, Goff threw 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 1,583 yards, a 63% completion percentage, and a 1-5 record. Meanwhile, Williams has 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1,351 passing yards, and a 61 completion percentage. So I think that it's way too early. And there's a segment of the Bears fandom that are, overreacting just a tad, but I think it's too soon to start worrying about Caleb as a whole. I think we have to remember he's 6 games in. He does need to clean things up. I do respect that he is taking ownership. We saw him, even do that as a rookie, but he's really stepping into taking responsibility for even things like, the quarterback center exchange. He took responsibility. Drew Dahlman took responsibility, but both of them need to clean it up.
All right, we're gonna move on to the game in front of us, which is it looks like Danny's back. He put the hamster back on the wheel, so the internet's back up. How you doing over there, Danny? And talk a little bit about the good, bad, and ugly.
Sorry, guys, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with my internet. I've been trying to fix this here. I'm not. I paid the bill. I know that for sure.
Get out of the bunker, Danny.
Xfinity charges me every month for this
underground.
overpriced internet. What's that?
So the good. I would say maybe come up above ground.
Hey, we don't want to give away all the secrets here.
What bunker?
We don't want to give away all the secrets here, right? Let's keep things on this one.
You're right. You're right. We'll take that offline.
Aldo just put something in the chat that I cannot. Aldo just put something in the chat that I cannot repeat on the air here. So
it's probably family show.
I'm sure you had a question for me, John. What's your question, my friend?
The good, bad, and the ugly with Caleb Williams. We're talking about he took the ownership of the miscues. He's pretty self-aware. The accuracy still needs cleaned up, and for whatever reason, the center seems to have Stickum on his hands. So what's going on with the good, the bad, and the ugly with Caleb Williams?
Yeah, the Drew Dahlman game, that was weird. I mean, that was 2 snaps where he just didn't want to let go of the ball. So I'm not sure what was going on there. But I tweeted during the game, like, it was a bad game for Caleb. You could see the timing was off. For whatever reason, he just wasn't seeing it. He wasn't feeling it. We saw some of the bad Caleb habits, right? Holding onto the ball, double clutching, and then retreating backwards, and then kind of giving up ground. And we don't want to see that, right? So, but it's not something that I'm concerned about or I'm even worried about. And I know Alyssa, you mentioned in terms of some portion of the fan base, clutching their pearls and kind of judging this kid on every single throw or incompletion or interception or touchdown pass. The kid's he's learning the offense. It's going to be an up and down. Throughout the season, we all told you guys, be prepared. This is what happens when you have a young quarterback who's developing. And I've seen way more good than I've seen bad from Caleb. Now, the bad habits, you want those kind of gone, but it takes some time to break all your bad habits. So it was just I chalk it up to a game where he just wasn't feeling it. The offense wasn't in rhythm. And he wasn't seeing it clearly, right? So I think that's something that Ben can go ahead and kind of break down and drill down with Caleb and see what happened, what was going on here, what were the Saints doing? Remember, Brandon Staley, who was our defensive coordinator for the Saints, he comes from that Vic Fangio, defensive tree, if you will. He does a lot of in terms of his coverage to try to confuse quarterbacks, and famously Fangio did a great job of confusing Goff when he was with the Rams, did a good job of doing that same thing with Stafford when he was with the Lions. So, the coverage and the way to design and scheme stuff up there, could cause some of the confusion there. But yeah, to me, it was just a bad game, but the Bears won, and that's a positive. And I think moving forward, Caleb is the guy that Ben Johnson wants running his ship. And until Ben Johnson gives up on Caleb, no one else should be giving up on Caleb. And I don't see Ben Johnson giving up on Caleb Williams for a long, long time.
Absolutely agree. And the bottom line is they won the football game. They're taking a 4-game winning streak into this game against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Ravens, they're not the run-of-the-mill 1-5 team, but they're still 1-5, and there's kind of a dark cloud over the franchise now. Fans and the media sense an unhappiness within the club and a lack of the positive focus. Their quarterback's hurt. Coaches have removed from the locker room a basketball hoop, a ping pong table, cornhole boards, and a video console. Apparently, they had a Dave & Buster's in the freaking locker room. But yeah, yesterday, the frustration within the team is still pretty evident. Take a look at what cornerback Marlon Humphrey had to say.
It would be nothing greater if we could beat the Chicago Bears this Sunday. I think we are 1-5. We are like 1-5. We've won one game, lost 5 games. The only thing I think anybody wants to do is just to win one game. If you're focused on anything other than that, I hope you let somebody know, because you need to either meet with our mental health person or somebody, because we need to focus on one game, one practice. I just want to win a game. That would be like really cool. I'd be really happy. It's just not fun to lose games. It's something I told the defense. I've never really been a loser in my entire life. I'm not really cool with being a loser. I'm not really comfortable with being a loser. So I just want to win one game.
So obviously there's some sarcasm there. There's some frustration there. Usually that's reserved for the Chicago Bears fans, but we'll take it going into someone else having those kind of frustrations. But it does appear that the defense is a big problem. They're 30th in yards allowed per game, 26th in rushing yards allowed, 28th in passing yards allowed. This has been a bad defense, which is very un-Ravens-like. And then the offense is in the middle of the pack, scoring about 24 points per game. The Bears, by the way, scoring 25.3 points per game. Obviously, Lamar Jackson not being in the game is hurting that offense. But what does that anticipated return of Lamar Jackson, who, by the way, did not practice Monday, and we're still waiting to hear a little bit more about his status, but what does his return mean for this game, and what does it mean for the Chicago Bears defensively, Alyssa?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the storyline that everyone's watching. Obviously, is Lamar going to suit up? Wednesday it's going to be a big one. We'll see. His hamstring injury, assuming he does play, it's going to limit him to some degree when it comes to him running the ball where he's most dangerous. So I think that it does present a favorable matchup for the Bears, but it's still 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So this is not going to be a cakewalk at all, even though Baltimore only has 1 win. So, the Bears pass rush is really going to need to step up to get him, because yes, he's known for running the ball, but he can really throw as well. So, he didn't practice Monday. We'll see with the hamstring injuries, because Bears fans do know how tricky hamstring injuries can be. Look at how much time Kyler Gordon and TJ Edwards missed this season. And, Lamar hasn't played since that Chiefs game on September 28th. So we'll see if, roughly 3 weeks is enough. It was enough for TJ Edwards. It wasn't enough for Kyler Gordon. So we shall see. But that's going to be, if Lamar Jackson's playing in this game, it's obviously always going to be in the back of your mind. Can they overcome Lamar Jackson to win? If he's not playing, that's going to be just an absolute, that it would be a sigh of relief for the Bears, but also you don't want them to overlook this one-win Ravens team as well. So.
Absolutely. And Danny, look, the Bears run defense was allowing 5.6 yards per play going into the bye. But the last 2 games, they've allowed only 44 total yards rushing against New Orleans and 124 against Washington. Can they continue that type of momentum against Derrick Henry, who, albeit not having one of his better years, but is still a absolute force to be reckoned with?
Yeah, for me, John and Alyssa, this comes down to one thing. Will Lamar Jackson play? If Lamar Jackson plays, I think it's going to be an uphill battle for the Bears to try and win this game in Baltimore, coming off a bye and which the team is desperate for a win. But if Lamar Jackson doesn't play, and if it's Cooper Rush or Tyrone Huntley back there, I think the Bears have a great chance to win. I think all you do is you stack the box and you limit King Henry, and you make Cooper Rush, or whoever the quarterback is, try and beat you. And I think that's the game plan going in. So, if Lamar Jackson plays, it's going to be an uphill battle, to be honest with you. If Lamar is out, then I think the Bears have a very good chance of coming out of Baltimore with another victory.
And I want to switch sides real quick and talk about the Ravens and their 28th ranked in the NFL with only 28.6% pressure rate. That's per Next Gen Stats. And that was before making some trades and losing some people to some injuries. How do you think that this offensive line is going to hold up against this, I would say, battered defensive line for Baltimore?
Yeah, for me, I would obviously establish the run game. While we talked about some of those numbers in terms of how they're porous in terms of the run defense. Now, Roquan Smith is coming back for this game, at least from what I've heard. So, that's going to hopefully, that's probably going to help their run defense. So, but yeah, from the Bears offense, I establish a running attack, and then again use play action, and maybe if the pressure is getting to Caleb, maybe do some rollouts of actions to get him away from that pressure, some boot outs and all that stuff. But definitely rely heavily on the run game and see what you can develop there, and then attack, in terms of whether it's the tight ends or with Colson Loveland, maybe Cole Kmet, and also the receivers downfield. But you can definitely throw on this Ravens defense, but you can also definitely run on them. So, I establish a run and then build my passing game off of that rushing attack.
And John, also speaking to, you're talking about that pressure rate that they had. And the Ravens have just 8 sacks this season, which is tied for the fewest in the NFL. And the Bears have allowed just 11, which is the best. So I think that this does present a favorable matchup for this offensive line. If they can protect Caleb, I think it really will set that passing game up as well.
And I wanted to ask you about, they could be getting Roquan Smith back. There's another storyline to talk about, a former Bear potentially facing his former team. What, if anything, will that do for the defense?
Yeah, I think we saw it in Chicago. He was an all-pro before he was an all-pro when he was traded to the Ravens. So, that'll be huge for this defense, especially as they've been ravaged by injuries. We know what he can do. We've seen it for 4 years. Like Danny said, he's going to be playing, and he was asked about that revenge narrative of coming back to Chicago. We saw this unfold back in 2022, but he's not leaning into that. And if you kind of look at this roster and how much it's changed since Roquan Smith was traded, there are only 9 players on this Bears roster since Roquan was on the team.
Wow.
And that's Cole Kmet, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Jones, Dominique Robinson, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Braxton Jones, Elijah Hicks, and Cairo Santos. So I think the revenge narrative, I know Ryan Poles is still there and he's the one that made the move, but most of the players that he was playing with before aren't even on the team anymore.
Yeah, they weren't even teammates with him, so there's not really a revenge factor there. Danny, anything to add to the Roquan Smith potential, returning to the lineup and what he could do against the Bears?
Yeah, he's a guy that, at least for me, he's still a playmaker, man. With sideline to sideline. Now, the one thing about Roquan, and we saw it here in Chicago, if you run at him, I think that's where you would attack him. I wouldn't string a lot of wide outside zone runs with Roquan back there. I would run downhill more. I'd see more power, more of that, some of that, duo blocks, whatnot, pulling the guard, some counter trays, and running downhill is where you would think you attack them. Is a lot of these great athletic defenders, whether it's like a Micah Parsons at the line of scrimmage or even a Walker Smith at the second level, run at these guys and go at them and with power, and now make them kind of play on their heels instead of having them come downhill and use some of their athletic ability.
And so the last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here was a question that we got in the chat room, and I believe it was from Bear here. It was saying thoughts on our division rivals games this past weekend. You look at this division, and there aren't any terrible teams in it because they all at least have a non-losing record. But looking over, Danny, the Vikings and the Packers and the Lions, what is your overall analysis of this division right now?
It's the best division in football, in my opinion. Every team in it has a winning record, like you mentioned, John. And for me, if I'm the Bears, I'm right in the thick of it right now, in between the Vikings and Green Bay and the Bears. I think those three teams are jostling for second best in the division, to be honest with you. And the Bears, we've talked about, the Bears aren't even playing their best football yet, so I think they're going to continue to get better. The Packers, they had that weird record with that one tie, but they haven't been impressive. And even after the Micah trade, we all said this Packers team will go as Jordan Love goes, and he's been inconsistent just like the Packers have been. So, and obviously with Minnesota, the big question mark there is at quarterback. I think their defense is pretty good, but yet that quarterback, whether it's Wentz or JJ McCarthy, I think they're kind of not trailing in that pack there. So to me, it's the Lions are head and shoulders above everybody else, and now it's the Bears and the Packers, and sometimes even Minnesota kind of jostling for that second best in the division.
And Alyssa, here's an interesting question from J2K. It says, at 4-2, are the Bears meeting or exceeding your expectations? Many thought that they would have a losing record. I don't remember exactly what we thought their record would be at this point, but I think, Danny, you basically had them right around maybe 4-2 at this point. Maybe the rest of us did as well. Maybe it wasn't the way that we thought it would be, but they're getting there. And I think if you ask Bears fans at this point, would they take 4-2? After 6 games, I think we'd all say yes. So for me, and I'll answer this question before I throw it to you, Alyssa, I want to say moderately exceeding, which I know is just the most fence-sitting expression in the world. But I will say that they're finding a way to win games, and it's incredibly encouraging to see that they can pull out close games, which they had not done in the past. Would you like to see more fireworks and offensive firepower from Caleb? Sure, but the fact that they're running the football is really encouraging as well. So I'll say just barely exceeding expectations. What do you think?
I mean, I guess during the beginning of the season, I would say meeting expectations, because I'd like to go back and kind of look at our predictions. I think we all had them roughly around 4-2 at this point. Danny might have had them 5-1. He was very optimistic there early. But yeah, when you kind of look at after week 2, I would be like, this is exceeding expectations, right? Because it looks like 2 completely different seasons, 2 completely different teams, how they've managed to bounce back after that just embarrassing Lions loss. And to see, like you said, John, how they're able to pull out these close wins, which obviously they weren't able to do during the Matt Eberflus era. And then seeing the defense rise to the challenge. I think we were all expecting the offense. We knew it would come, it would take time for them to kind of get into the groove. But with the defense, with all the injuries and the struggles against the Lions, to see them come out and do what they've done and also lead the league in takeaways and just the dominance that they're able to, that they're doing with Dennis Allen right now, I'd say it's also, I would say, slightly exceeding expectations as well.
Danny, exceeding or meeting expectations? I think you might have been the most bullish in the beginning part of the season here. Where do you have them?
Yeah, I had them up there. I believe I had them at 4-2 at this point. After the Ravens, or maybe 5-1. I think Alyssa might have been right there. But yeah, Alyssa, I agree with what you just said. In terms of that first, that first 2 games after that Detroit game, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be a big steep uphill climb. But to bounce back and to win the next 4, guys, the Bears haven't lost a game since Detroit. So I mean, just think about that, right? And how long ago was that? Right. So I love the fact that, again, we keep saying this week in, week out. Are they playing perfect? No. Is there room for growth and get better? Absolutely. But they're winning, and that is key. And that you're building that culture. And I'm just so excited because I'm gonna come out here and profess it. And hopefully my internet doesn't cut out right now. But I have a man crush on Ben Johnson. I mean, this is the first time in my life that the Bears have a coach that I freaking love. I absolutely love everything. And it's only what, six games, right?
You guys are bad. You guys are undisciplined.
I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach or anything like that, but you ask him a question, he'll give you the truth. You ask him, about a player, he'll give you the truth. He won't bullshit you. He's out there. He's genuine with his players. His players buy into his program. He's put together a hell of a coaching staff. And I think it's everything he says, everything he does. And so when he says this team's going to be playing its best football in December, damn it, I believe him. And I think in December, we'll be seeing this Bears team get better and better. And by then could be competing for a playoff spot. We'll see how it goes. Now, they have a lot of holes they got to fill, and hopefully they stay healthy. But I think that's something where, first year, bringing a new regime, building everything in terms of culture and that winning atmosphere. I think Ben Johnson's done a great job, up here to a great start.
Let me tell you something. It's very difficult if you really think about this.
We're just throwing in random quotes. I love it. Why not? This has been a random experience for the last 9 years anyway. So just throw it in whatever you got. I love it. I love it. So let's go around the horn before we close it out. Alyssa, what are you working on this week? Anything cool? What's some of the feature stuff you're working on over there?
Yeah, just as usual, get you ready for all things Bears Ravens this week. We got the latest sound bites from Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, and everyone speaking, as well as game preview and game updates and post-game content. So make sure you check that out. And we are having, because the trade deadline is coming up, so will have trade deadline features as well.
All right, Danny, it's always draft season, college football. I'm guessing I got a lot of guys that you're scouting out right now. Let me guess, you're the big North Texas Charlotte matchup that you're going to be paying attention to later on this weekend.
I'll be there. I'm there live in person, taking notes. No, I'm just I've been saying, I've been going through the offensive linemen here, recently. So we're putting together a list here. We'll drop something this week on Shimon Draft Scout. So please, if you can, follow at Shimon Draft Scout. Go through my top 10 list here in terms of offensive tackles. Also talk about interior offensive linemen. Also starting to peek at the defensive side here, looking at some of the cornerbacks, some of the defensive secondary players there as well. So the college football season is in full swing here. Teams are coming together here. Indiana is putting together one hell of a run here in the Big Ten here locally in the Midwest. So it's exciting. And before you know it, it's going to be, draft season here. So hopefully, we can prolong the Bears season this year a little bit longer and then, hit the draft, late January, maybe early February, talk about the draft at that time. So we'll see.
After a playoff run.
That's it.
There you go. Yeah, Danny, I love your analysis and I love talking to you about, prospects and the draft, but I don't want to have that conversation until later, a couple of months from now. I don't want to have to start filling content talking about mock drafts. I just don't want that right now.
You and I both. Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Buffone 55. Next week, the Halloween episode. We all love the Halloween episode, so we're going to be bringing that back. We're not going to unveil our costumes quite yet, but that's always a fun time here on Buffone 55. But we appreciate each and every one of you tuning in, whether it's the live version, the podcast version, video version, audio version. If you're watching on your Super Nintendo, we appreciate that. So, but that'll do it. Hope you enjoy the game. For Danny Shimon and Alyssa Barbieri, Aldo Gandia working the controls in the background, keeping us on our toes. We appreciate that. I'm John Buffone. We'll see you next time here on Buffone 55.